Respawn have finally released a gameplay trailer for Jedi Survivor, and there's actually quite a few things that needs to be broken down. Now, this is a gameplay trailer, so much of the emphasis is on, well, the gameplay. But for this specific breakdown, I want to focus specifically on the story elements of the game, and there's a lot of little details to unpack, so let's get straight into it.
The order is gone. I was betrayed by the one I trusted most. I will not be imprisoned again.
We begin the trailer with a bacta scene, and it's basically a different angle of what we got in the original teaser trailer. And what is interesting here is that we get to hear the voice of the man inside the tank talking about the Jedi Order and how he was betrayed by someone he trusted. And if you take a look in the background, you'll notice that there are a ton of black veiny vines, almost as if their surroundings were being corrupted. But based on the few lines of dialogue that we got, we can sort of deduce that this person whom Cal Kestis released from prison must have been a former Jedi of some sort. The fact that the mystery character talks about the Jedi Order and how he was betrayed by someone indicates that he must have had a close relationship with the Jedi. So my theory is that this could very well be a former Jedi, possibly imprisoned by other Jedi many years ago for reasons that still remain unclear, at least until we get to see some more clues in the later parts of the trailer. Cal Kestis releases the man from his prison, and I couldn't help but notice how incredibly blue his eyes are, which is either the result of his species or the fact that being imprisoned in the bacta tank for so long had some unintended side effects, possibly also turning his skin and hair white. The person in question is also missing an arm, which we already knew from the teaser. In the next shot, Cal Kestis stabs a Magna Guard, which were originally used during the Clone Wars as bodyguards of certain separatist leaders such as General Grievous and Count Dooku. These guards were designed to be far more intelligent and superior to the regular battle droid, and were made with the specific purpose of killing Jedi. However, following the end of the Clone Wars, these droids were supposed to be deactivated, but many of them were still active and often ended up in the private armies of warlords and criminal factions. In the next important scene, we see Cal face off against a masked individual, and this person in particular is holding a yellow lightsaber. And if you pay close attention to the hilt of the blade, you'll notice that the design of the hilt closely resembles that of Cal Kestis. What this particular character is supposed to be isn't very clear. This particular person could very well be the person in the bacta tank, assuming that he is a former Jedi. On the other hand, this particular person could also simply be a bounty hunter or a non-force user who is using a lightsaber, which isn't that uncommon at all, as we do see certain non-force using individuals wield the lightsaber as a primary weapon in the comics during the period of the Empire.
I hear you've been busy making yourself the Empire's most wanted.
Jedi. Remind our friend here why his kind are supposed to be dead.
Here we go.
Cut to a few scenes later and we see none other than Seer, who is now bald. She even decided to get a few new tattoos, and judging by the surroundings, it's pretty clear that Seer has been quite busy collecting Jedi artifacts for safekeeping. We even see a library of some sort in the background, the same type used by the Jedi in the Jedi Temple. And a lot of this really reminded me of Jocasta Nu's lair in the comics, where she stored a lot of Jedi artifacts and knowledge following Order 66, in hopes that the knowledge there would be enough to start up a new Jedi Order, a plan she had until she was killed by Vader. A secret place that was later rediscovered by Luke on a later date. So what Seer is doing here could very well be the same purpose, collecting bits and pieces of the Jedi Order in hopes of starting a new Jedi Order, or at the very least for safekeeping. Seer talks about how Cal has been making himself the Empire's most wanted, letting us know that in the years since the events of Fallen Order, Cal has been actively fighting against the Empire, possibly even helping with the rebellion. And if you pause on one of the shots, you can also see a mysterious figure standing next to Seer. And at first, if you look at the skin tone of the character, you might be inclined to think that this is the same person who was imprisoned in the bacta tank. But if you look very closely, you'll notice that this person still has both of his arms, whereas the prisoner only had one. So unless the prisoner can grow back limbs, I think this might be an entirely different character. And the way the person is dressed really reminded me of the way the Zepho are dressed, a dead civilization which featured prominently in the first game, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. In a brief shot, we get to see a B1 battle droid being sliced up by Cal, again probably a leftover from the Clone Wars and possibly belonging to the same factions that own the Magna Guards from earlier. Cal encounters more enemies, and in the background we can actually see some Arbesh that translates to Dendra's Antiquities. Probably just a local shop on whatever planet Cal is on. On the side of the building, we also have a bit of Arbesh, which doesn't really translate to anything, so not sure what this was supposed to be. The enemies that Cal faces off are definitely new, probably bounty hunters of some sort, but if you pay close attention to the color scheme of their armor, these guys definitely belong to a well-defined faction, and it's unlikely that this is a one-off encounter.
After all we've done, the Empire's only grown stronger.
Thanks, Bode. Part of the job, Custis.
Cal also faces off against a forest wampa, probably a subspecies of the wampas that we see on Hoth. And in the next shot, we also get to see some Dark Troopers. And the Dark Troopers that we see here are not the same type that we see in The Mandalorian. If you pay close attention, there are some subtle differences, most notably the thinner torso, whereas the ones in The Mandalorian are a lot chunkier. The ones that we see in the trailer are in fact the DT series sentry droid, an earlier version of the Dark Troopers. In fact, we've already seen them in action during the Rebels show when Thrawn spars against them. So they are definitely far from the unstoppable killing machines that we see in The Mandalorian. In a brief shot, we also get to see Cal get shot at by an Imperial patrol transport, which was designed to patrol cities, something which we saw very frequently in Rebels on the planet Lothal. But pause the scene and look closely at the pilot of the ship, and you'll see that the person in the cockpit seems to have on a black helmet with a red glowing visor, which leads me to believe that the person here must be a new Inquisitor, which interestingly enough wasn't the major focus of the trailer, so there's a good chance that the Inquisitors aren't out of the picture completely. We get a brief moment with a new character, someone who Cal will be working very closely with as seen in the next shot, with the two of them having some combined movesets. And this particular character goes by the name of Bodhi Akuna, but besides this, not much else is known about him.
Jedi is a threat. Not now that we have this.
As long as we fight. Hope survives.
Cal encounters more B1 battle droids, but these guys in particular appear to be modified, using melee weapons instead of the standard blaster. But look at the color scheme of these droids, and the colors shown do seem to match the ones worn earlier by the other enemies of Cal. So these droids here, and possibly the others that we have seen, just might belong to the same faction. We then get a shot of what I presume to be the same guy in the bacta tank now working with Cal's enemies, which leads me to believe that this guy here could very well be a fallen Jedi or maybe a dark side user. Knowing that he was imprisoned in the bacta tank, it could very well have been the result of the Jedi deciding to keep him there after learning that he was slowly turning to the dark side. I think that could make a lot of sense, as during the Clone Wars there were numerous Jedi who ended up turning to the dark side. And so if this is indeed the case and the former Jedi was locked up during the Clone Wars period, it could very well explain why this faction of enemies relies so heavily on separatist droids. It would also explain the scene in the teaser trailer where Cal encounters a mysterious figure with a red lightsaber who appears to only have one hand. Another question that comes to mind when looking at this scene is what exactly is the man holding? At first glance, I had assumed that it was a Jedi communicator, but upon closer inspection, I'm not so sure. This could be a key to unlock some secret related to the Jedi, or maybe even a navigation device. Whatever it is, it seems to hold the key to a great power, as the person seems to be unconcerned about the threat Cal poses now that he has this. A super battle droid makes an appearance, and Cal seems to have modified his lightsaber to have crossguards, the very same ones like Kylo Ren. And in the next few shots of him using that lightsaber, it seems as though the length of the lightsaber has increased dramatically, changing Cal's fighting style. This probably has more to do with the game showcasing its customization options when it comes to lightsabers than it has to do with the story. At the same time, we also get to see the BX series commando droids, elite droids used by the Separatists to carry out covert missions during the Clone Wars, again probably belonging to the main antagonist of this game. So that's pretty much it for the breakdown of the gameplay trailer. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I am the Lost Acolyte,
And I have spoken.